Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat podcast, your one-stop shop for daily Miami Heat and NBA content. My name is Amir. Have a ton of updates on the Kevin Durant front, and as of now, the Miami Heat are the new betting favorites to Kevin Durant at plus 200. That came out from Evan Siddery. They also said that Kevin Durant has no desire to end up on the Timberwolves. So right now, Kevin Durant said he prefers three teams. Of course, the Miami Heat were included. The Texas teams were both included, so Houston and San Antonio. And a fourth team has been aggressively pursuing Kevin Durant at this point, and that's the T-Wolves. And apparently, according to Shams, Kevin Durant has no desire to end up with the T-Wolves, which is a little shocking that he has no desire because he is friends with Edwards. Anthony Edwards, his favorite player is KD, so they have mutual respect for each other. But Kevin Durant doesn't want to go there. And he ultimately wants to be, again, on the Rockets, the Miami Heat, or the Spurs. And other teams are also coming out of the woodwork. So it's taking some time to get a deal done. And Minnesota, like I said, has been the most aggressive. And they're doing that because right now the Suns apparently don't like any trade offers that have been coming in from Miami, the Spurs, or the Rockets. And because of that, you can see other teams possibly come in, like the Raptors. Brian Windhorst has reported this a few days ago that they can come in possibly as a team that is interested in Kevin Durant. And today it was stated that the Raptors are open to including the number 9 overall pick in this year's draft in a potential trade for Kevin Durant, which could make that interesting for the Suns because they want to recoup their draft capital. They would have had the 10th pick this year, but that goes to the Houston Rockets. And so they are looking for young players, assets in terms of draft capital, maybe expiring contracts. So the Raptors could be a team. The Clippers are another team that could be a dark horse potentially that comes in. But I think the Suns are going to be asking for too much theoretically. So they're going to eventually have to lower their price. And again, the Suns have been unimpressed by most offers. So I think that's why we haven't seen a Kevin Durant trade yet. And if the Miami Heat wants to acquire Kevin Durant, then the Suns have apparently been scouting or doing some background work on Andrew Wiggins, who would be included in a potential Kevin Durant trade. He's making close to $30 million next season. He's 30 years old. He's a one-time All-Star. He's an NBA champion. And so they do want to add win-now players. And he's someone who could play next to Booker because he's a small forward. He's a 3-and-D wing. And other teams like the Spurs are offering Vassell and Harrison Barnes and other pieces which aren't moving the needle, but then also you're adding as the centerpiece of shooting guard. And they already have Booker and they already have Beal technically still too. And we saw that didn't work between Beal, Booker, and even KD. And so Wiggins could be part of that, but they're also prioritizing Kel'el Ware to be alongside Wiggins in a framework for Durant. So it doesn't look like they care for Terry Rozier's expiring contract. So they want those two pieces. I don't know if they want also draft capital, but in my opinion, if you're adding Kel'el Ware, I would try not to add any draft capital if possible. So with Kel'el Ware and Wiggins, you're going to still need filler. So you're going to need to add like a Duncan Robinson. So it could be Duncan, who's on a non-guaranteed contract, and someone they could waive to save money, which would be good for that team, obviously, because they're a second apron team. They also get their centerpiece, which is Kel'el Ware, who's also a center, which is what they're missing. And they also get Andrew Wiggins for at least a year. He has a player option the year after this season, and he's still, in his prime. He's 30 years old, and they can maybe use him as a trade piece in the future or let him walk away essentially, and then you get that money off the books as well. And then you could start focusing on rebuilding around Booker and Kel'el Ware and the other pieces that you may have through the trade. But that's the sticking point right now. It seems like they really want Kel'el Ware. It seems like the Miami Heat don't want to include Kel'el Ware. They didn't want to include him this trade deadline when they asked for Kel'el Ware and Jaime and Jovic and basically everybody along with Jimmy Butler for Kevin Durant. So I understand that. But for me, I don't really want to trade Kel'el Ware. Andrew Wiggins, you could take Andrew Wiggins. I can care less about that, honestly. But if you trade Wiggins, Kalel, and Duncan, that's it. That's the trade. You don't add any draft capital. The Miami Heat will keep their 3 picks. Use that then to add a Drew Holiday type player. Not Drew Holiday per se, but I don't like his contract. But try to get a role player or two that you can add. We need another center. If we get rid of Khalil Ware, then we're definitely going to need a center. But you are going to also need a point guard because right now Davion Mitchell then would be probably inserted as our starting point guard, assuming that we do resign him as a restricted free agent. And then you could use that to build a team. But then you have to put Bam back at the center, which is going to be unfortunate because he doesn't want to do that. But still, if Bam goes back to the center and you have KD at your power forward, then maybe you have Haywood start in there with Davion and Tyler. And that's a pretty solid starting lineup. But then you need more help. You need to try to get a DeMar DeRozan on this team, perhaps. You need to try to get a Cam Johnson or someone like that, especially who could be a 3-and-D wing type player or a backup big. I thought Steven Adams would be a good fit, but he just re-signed a pretty big deal, 3-year, I think it was close to $40 million with the Rockets. So he's off the market. But signing someone off the bench as a center is something we're going to definitely need because we're going to lose our starting center and we're going to have no one really. We're going to have Kevin Love, who's basically unplayable at this age. So for me personally, what I would want to do is trade Wiggins, Duncan, Jaime, and a first round pick, which they're probably not going to do. So you're going to have to throw in Jovic. I'm fine with that. Like, I love Jaime, even though he had a bad year. I love Jovic and his prospects of being a unicorn as a 6'10" point forward, someone who could stretch the floor, who's a good transition player, who's someone who has plenty of opportunity to grow. He's only played like 100 games in 3 seasons. That's an issue with him. Can he stay on the floor? But is he really going to be an all-star? Is Jaime really going to be an all-star? Role players for Kevin Durant, who's still a top 20 player in the NBA, someone who scored almost 27 points per game last season, someone who shot 43% from three, someone who's still an elite scorer. Something that we need is scoring. And if you put Kevin Durant next to Tyler Hero is going to flourish. He was amazing last season as the number one focal point on our offense. Teams were scheming against Tyler Hero, double teaming him, blitzing him, and he still had a good year. Imagine Kevin Durant playing next to Kevin Durant playing next to Tyler Hero. That's going to help with his spacing, and he's going to play off ball a little bit and on ball, and he's going to be able to get better looks, better shot opportunities, better opportunity at getting to the rim. So I think it's going to be huge for both Bam and Tyler Hero. So ideal trade for me. Not the most ideal, but if we're going to actually want to get this done, you got to trade both Jaime and Jovic, even though I don't want to do this theoretically, but you got to pay the price for someone who's a top 20 player still. Top 25 at absolute worst. He's a top 25 player still, in my opinion. More likely closer to 15, I would say. That 15 to 20 range. But either way, you trade one first round pick. You got Jovic, you got Jaime, you got Wiggins, you got Duncan. Call it a day. I'd rather keep Khalil Ware. If I had to pick between Jaime and Jovic and Khalil, and I can only have Khalil or I can have Jovic and Jaime, I pick Khalil between Jaime and Jovic because they're role players. Khalil possibly has a chance to be a star, but there's no guarantee in that as well. He has a long way to go. He's still raw. He had a good rookie season, but we'll see. But I'd rather keep Khalil Ware because of his upside. And can Nico become better? Yes. Is growth non-linear? Yes. It's not always linear. Can Jaime come back from his sophomore slump? Of course. But for me, that's my ideal trade. And could I be convinced to trade Khalil, Wiggins, and Duncan or whatever it is, the filler? Yes. Theoretically, yes. For Kevin Durant, yes. I don't know if I want to watch this team run it back again. Not the same run it back with Jimmy Butler and whatnot, but you're still running it back with Terry, with Duncan, with Wiggins, with Tyler, with Bam. You still have Jovic, you have Jaime, you have Pella. You're running it back, and we were a playing team. We weren't a good enough team. We got our asses handed to us in the playoffs when it meant the most. Tyler got hunted. Tyler Hero scored 4 points in a closeout game. The Heat lost by 55 points per game. I don't want to be a playing team, and I don't want to be in purgatory like the Hawks and the Bulls, consistently playing in that playing game. So why not take a shot? Add Kevin Durant, who's a freaking all-star, who's an all-NBA guy still, who's one of the best scorers in the NBA still at this age, even though he's going to be 37 when the season starts. I'd rather take a shot on that and have a little more fun watching something different. But again, I don't want to mortgage the future, which is giving multiple first-round picks giving up Kel'el Ware and picks, even giving up Jaime Jovic and multiple picks. I don't want to do that. If you're giving up Jaime and Jovic, your maximum picks you're going to give is one, in my opinion. You're giving up those two, one pick, Wiggins and Duncan. Otherwise, then I don't think it's worth mortgaging your future just to be like a top 5 or 6 team in the East. Yes, Boston is going to be done for one season, but you have Detroit, who's getting even better. You got the Magic, who just got Desmond Bane. They're going to be better, and we're better than the Miami Heat in the regular season. You still have Cleveland, who can improve. You still have the Knicks, who are going to be in the mix. You have the Pacers, who are in the finals, who could win the finals. Who the hell knows? Like, it's still not going to be an easy path, but Kevin Durant gives you a better shot, but don't mortgage the future completely by trading 2 to 3 first-round picks. Don't trade Kalel and multiple picks. Don't trade Jovic, Jaime, and multiple picks. But try to make it fair. Try to compete with the Texas teams. Try to get this done as soon as possible before the draft. And yeah, I'm okay with getting Kevin Durant. I'm also okay if we don't get him, honestly. He's 37 years old. It's not similar to the Dame scenario, in my opinion. I think Dame with Jimmy and Bam would have been such a great fit. You saw how good Jimmy did with like a Steph Curry on his roster. Dame's not Steph Curry, but he's a Steph Curry light. He's a similar type of player. And so before he's been derailed with all his injuries and just not fitting in well with Giannis and the Bucks, I still was more disappointed about that. Obviously, Dame was 33 at the time of the trade, and I think he would have been a great fit with Jimmy and Bam. But I'm not going to be as upset again with Kevin Durant if he doesn't come to the Miami Heat, because we're getting more flexible. We're going to have expiring contracts with Duncan, with Terry Rozier. We have a pick this year. We're going to have 2 more in the future. We can make stuff happen eventually and, develop our young guys while staying somewhat competitive. But anyway, that's all I have for this episode. I'll come back if I have any more Kevin Durant updates in the upcoming days. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.